Indie Comics Deep Dive with Mona and Sam. Welcome back, everyone, to Indie Comics Deep Dive with me, Sam, and Mona. And we're going to be diving into something really cool today.
Yeah, this is Avenger, New Blood #1. Big spoiler warning here, okay? If you haven't read this issue yet, maybe bookmark this and come back later. We are going to be talking about major plot points. And if you are loving what you're hearing, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome Indie Comics deep dives.
Okay, let's get into it. Avenger, New Blood. This is an ongoing series, so we're just going to be focusing on the first issue today. And I think it's a pretty wild ride.
Yeah, for folks who don't know, the Avenger is actually a public domain Golden Age character, so he's been around for a while. But Lenovations Press, the publisher of the series, is doing something really interesting with him.
They are. Instead of just trying to modernize the Avenger, they're using his classic adventures to explore some really complex modern-day issues.
Right.
It kicks off with a young woman named Rica Roberts, who's meeting with a judge, Winston Farrow. And right from the start, there's this sense of mystery surrounding their connection.
Yeah, you get the feeling that the judge knew Rica's grandfather, Martin Booker Roberts, and that he holds him in very high regard. It's clear he's about to share something important with Rica, something that connects to her family history.
And he does. The judge reveals that Booker was a journalist who worked alongside the Avenger back in the 1950s, documenting his adventures. He's got this whole box filled with old films and recordings that he wants to show Rica.
It's like a time capsule taking us back to the golden age of comics. We see the Avenger in action battling those classic Cold War-era threats. But what's interesting is that Booker wasn't just passively filming these events.
Yeah, he's asking questions, digging deeper, trying to understand the motivations of both the heroes and the villains. It's almost like he's foreshadowing the more nuanced approach to storytelling that we see in modern comics.
Absolutely. He's not content with the simple good versus evil narrative. He wants to understand the context, the consequences, the human stories behind the headlines.
But why? Why would a dying man want to share these stories with his granddaughter? It seems like there's got to be something more to it.
Right. It feels like he's trying to teach her something, but we don't know what yet. It's a great hook. It pulls you right into the mystery. And then, boom, we jump into the first flashback, the first story on the film reel.
And it's a classic Cold War setup.
Yeah.
Commies trying to launch a nuclear attack on Empire City.
Classic Golden Age stuff, at least on the surface. You've got the Avenger and Booker racing against the clock to stop these missiles, and there's this real sense of tension and urgency.
But then Booker's narration starts to layer in this whole other perspective. He's giving us the behind-the-scenes look at things that the Avenger didn't see at the time.
Like the fact that those commies weren't actually communists at all.
Yeah, it turns out they were just residents of this town called Cypress Acres. And they were desperate to stop the pollution coming from the power plant the missiles were targeting.
It's such a clever twist. Suddenly, these villains become much more sympathetic. They were trying to protect their community, even if their plan was completely misguided. I mean, they didn't even realize the missiles had nuclear warheads.
It makes you wonder if the Avenger even knew the full story. He was so focused on stopping the missiles. Did he even consider their motivations?
Right, and that's where the whole idea of unintended consequences starts to come into play. Because even though the Avenger saved the city, his actions still caused massive environmental damage. That deflected missile might not have hit Empire City, but it still exploded in the ocean.
Yeah, that scene where we see the aftermath, all the dead fish and the oil slick. It's pretty jarring. It makes you question if he was really the hero in that situation.
Exactly. And then we get another twist. The men who launched the missiles are sent to prison, but they don't just give up. They use their time to study law and eventually bring the polluting company Cobalt Coal to justice.
So even though they were labeled as criminals, they ultimately helped bring about some positive change. It's a pretty hopeful ending for them, considering they were facing some serious jail time.
Their story adds a whole other layer of depth to this comic. You know, it's not just about superheroes and villains. It's about ordinary people grappling with real-world issues like pollution, corporate greed, and the fight for a better future.
So we've got Rica learning about her grandfather's incredible past, these fascinating stories from the golden age of comics. But then we get this huge reveal at the end of the issue.
The bombshell that Rica is actually in prison. We see her in an Empire Penitentiary jumpsuit, and it completely changes the context of everything we've learned so far.
It's such a clever twist.
Yeah.
Suddenly, we're not just watching a nostalgic trip down memory lane. We're thrust into a present-day mystery, wondering what landed Rica behind bars.
Right. Is it connected to her grandfather's legacy? Did she somehow get caught up in something related to those old stories? It's a cliffhanger that leaves you wanting more.
And just when you think it can't get any more intriguing, the judge drops another bombshell. He reveals that he's arranged for Rica's parole hearing to be moved up, and he's going to give her his strongest recommendation.
It's like he sees something special in her.
Yeah.
A potential for greatness, a drive to fight for what's right, just like her grandfather. He's not just sharing these stories with her, he's investing in her future.
It makes you wonder, what path will Rica choose? Will she embrace her grandfather's legacy? Maybe even become a new kind of hero, inspired by the Avenger, but informed by the complexities that Booker uncovered?
Or will she forge her own path, using the lessons she's learned to fight for justice in a different way? And it's not just the story itself that's layered. The way they use different art styles to distinguish between the two time periods was genius. It subtly shifts the visual tone, so you instantly know whether you're in Booker's memories or the present day with Rica. Let's give a shout out to the amazing creative team behind Avenger, New Blood.
Definitely. First up, we have Len Mihailovich, who's the writer and letterer for the comic. He's the mastermind behind this whole intricate and engaging story.
And he's done a fantastic job of capturing the essence of those classic Golden Age comics while infusing them with modern sensibilities and those thought-provoking themes we were talking about.
He's also got a great sense of humor, which shines through in the dialogue and those little character moments.
Yes, it's a perfect blend of action, drama, and humor.
Then we have the art team. Mano Ordal is handling the modern-day scenes, giving them this grounded, realistic feel. His style is perfect for capturing those intense emotional moments in those quieter, more character-driven scenes.
And Phil Miller is tackling the flashback sequences, bringing that classic Golden Age energy and dynamism to the page. His art has that vibrant, almost nostalgic feel that perfectly complements those old-school superhero adventures.
It's like they each bring their own unique strengths to the project, and it creates this really cool visual contrast between the past and the present.
And let's not forget the amazing color work by Priya Pillai and Len Mihailovich himself. The color palettes they've chosen really enhance the mood and atmosphere of each scene, creating a visual feast for the eyes.
Absolutely. And of course, we have to mention the incredible cover art by Dean Juliet and Nimesh Morarji. This is what initially drew me to this comic. It's got this classic superhero vibe, but there's also a sense of mystery and intrigue that really hooks you.
It perfectly captures the spirit of the story.
And we wanted to highlight a couple of those fun little Easter eggs that Len sprinkled throughout the comic.
Oh, yes. Those are always so much fun to discover. Did you catch that one about Rica's nickname?
No? What about it?
It's actually a nod to the writer Len Mihailovich's childhood dog. Apparently, it was a German shepherd who was super protective and would chase away bullies.
Oh, that's sweet. So it's like Rica's being set up as a protector, too, in a way.
Yeah.
But a protector of what?
That's the question, isn't it? And then there are those guys who launched the missiles, Bruce and Henry. They're actually drawn to look like two of Len's old coworkers.
Uh-huh. That's great. It's like he's sneaking his friends into the comic. I love that kind of personal touch.
It makes you want to go back and reread the issue just to see what else you might have missed.
For sure. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the plot, the art, the Easter eggs. But what does it all mean? Why should our listeners care about this seemingly obscure Golden Age character and his modern-day legacy? What's the takeaway here?
I think this comic is really challenging us to think about the stories we tell ourselves about the past. It's easy to look back at the golden age of comics and see things as simple black and white, but Avenger, New Blood, is showing us that it's never that simple. Even heroes make mistakes. Even good intentions can have bad consequences.
Yeah, this comic is forcing us to ask some tough questions. What does it really mean to be a hero? Can you ever truly separate good from evil? And what about the unintended consequences of our actions?
It's a lot to unpack, and I think that's what makes it so compelling. It's not just a superhero story. It's a story about history, about legacy, about the choices we make and the ripples they create. And it all starts with this one amazing issue.
And it makes you wonder, what kind of future Lenovations Press has planned for Rica? What are those great plans Booker had in mind for her? Is she being set up to become a new kind of hero? One who understands these nuances, these gray areas that her grandfather is showing her.
Right. I mean, we know so little about her right now. Why is she in prison? What kind of person is she? What choices did she make that led her there?
It feels like Lenovations Press is really playing the long game with her character. We're only getting a glimpse of her in this first issue, but I have a feeling she's going to be a major player in this series.
I think so, too. And it's interesting to think about how she's going to react to these stories to her grandfather's legacy. Is she going to embrace it, reject it, or maybe forge her own path entirely?
So many possibilities. And it all ties back to this idea of questioning our assumptions. We might think we know what a hero is, what a villain is, but Avenger, New Blood, is turning those ideas upside down.
It's making us look at things from a different perspective, asking us to consider the whole story, not just the surface level. And I think that's something we can all apply to our own lives, not just when we're reading comics.
Absolutely.
Issue number 1 is just the beginning, and I can't wait to see where Len Mihailovich takes this story.
Me neither. So if you're ready to dive into this world of complex heroes, hidden agendas, and thought-provoking twists, definitely check out Avenger, New Blood #1. You can find it on the Lenovations Press website, as well as on IndiePlanetDriveThruComics.com and Global Comics.
And let us know what you think. Hit us up on social media, leave a comment. We want to hear your theories, your questions, your reactions to this wild first issue.
Because what's the point of diving deep if we don't come back up and share what we've discovered?
Right. And before we sign off, we want to leave you with this question. What does it mean to be a hero in a world where even the best intentions can have unintended consequences? Think about it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out. We'll be back soon with another Indie Comics Deep Dive.